Yeah, the Ann Coulter heuristic, the Scott Adams warning. The next stage is that the cancellation power of racism, quote unquote, will not work. It'll cease to have power anymore. That's already starting, but that's going to become even more and more prevalent. I have to look it up, but it's especially the more and more Asian Americans are dismissed by the legal system, and that it becomes this thing of like, oh yeah, well, the institutional limitations on the number of Asian students that could be there, and the way that these faculties really seem to go out of their way to keep them off of to limit their number, to make sure that they have an inordinately high number of Black Americans compared to Asian American students. When compared overall, what the hell is happening here? Oh, I see. It's the dance of vehicles out front of the ballet. All right, there we go. I had to let the shui happen, Didn't want to fung it, didn't want to wrong it, Don't mess with the shui, bro. So, oh yeah, I've got lots of time. I should just old man stroll. I got my old man shoes on. I got my new nifty pants, new nifty 6 pockets. Oh yeah. So, there's going to be like no cancellation power, and there's going to be somebody who it's going to be like, that's racist, and they're going to just be like, oh, please stop it. And they're even going to say something like that. They're going, oh, stop. Or, oh, please, grow up. It doesn't work anymore. Or they'll be like, oh, yeah, and water's wet and the sun came up in the east today. Oh, my. Oh, no. What I just said was true. You see, you can't say that that's why they couldn't do that with Ann Coulter, because she would mock you. She would just mock what you said, and in a way that is so, because you see, she is that one white woman who will tell people, no, this is what's really going on, and everyone's like, I can't believe she said that, but they love it. They love that feeling for some reason, and it's great to watch it for decades. So, finally, that school teacher who's saying what everybody really knows, or that what she's saying, she can prove. She can find the documentation, from her has spawned all of these sort of watches over various elements of things liberals do all the time that are meant to ruin society and cause chaos, and they go, oh, well, there's so much chaos. All you have to do is just become one of us, a magic unicorn, and you won't have as much chaos suddenly. I don't know why. We're not in chaos over here, So, but of course now, that a lot of the pillars of trust in society, which this was something I had kind of thought about, but I hadn't really kind of oh yeah, once you don't have the high trust of a high trust society, the blue enclaves and all of their order naturally unraveled. It is naturally unraveled in San Francisco, in Berkeley, in West Oakland, there's no Kentucky Fried Chicken in Oakland, California now. That's that's like one of those things where you're like, what? Come on now. Don't talk like that. That's not cool. But then at some point when you realize, no, it's totally true. There's no Kentucky Fried Chicken in Oakland. That once that really sinks in, that one of the most common fast food joints, I think still in the world, if I remember correctly, can't make it there because of the extreme violence and theft. I mean, like, that's amazing. And that the people who live there are descended from the kind of people who this would have been quite specifically the food that they is supposedly from their kind of ancestral area of heritage. Just all it's just amazing. Just amazing. So then, beyond all this, I started thinking about, so you can't cancel. So now that's the issue. So cancel culture is going to lose its power very, 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 very soon. So people should get acquainted with how it even began, because nobody really brings up how far back this goes. Well, there's a bunch of different versions of, they said that, you're out of here. Mel Gibson, you said this, you're out of here. But no, it started, this is one of the few things that people could say, mostly black women used the term, but it was already happening among activist types and journalists quite specifically. So journalists would find dirt in your past, and then what they would do is that they would figure out some way of just sort of needling you with it, or especially if you were starting to become a public figure of some sort, they would needle you with this detail from your past and how it shows some kind of moral complicity with some terrible idea, usually fascism, Nazism, misogyny, and so what would happen is there would be whatever was the moral failure of the day among the liberals, and specifically journalists. This is why so many people didn't know about this. This is all journalists, all on Twitter, that were doing this to people. And so if, say, everybody was making stories about misogyny and sexism, that's what they would needle somebody about because of some statement they made at some point. And within a day or two, this person's having a furor on Twitter over sexism. And it's that literally people gin a tempest out of a teapot and just decided to ruin some public figure's life. And this could be really minor public figures. But this very quickly advanced to just normal people that had said something on Twitter or agreed with something, liked something on Facebook, and some journalists would just be like, yeah, let's teach them a lesson. And one of the things that a lot of people don't get is that, it was every cause. This started to happen. So very normal people who look like someone else would then get harassed by quote-unquote journalists online because supposedly they said this terrible thing on Twitter like 3 years ago, or agreed that this woman's beautiful, and that's totally real. Just simply put a thumbs up on a picture, and this person's like, what are you talking about? I don't even use Twitter. So it becomes then people getting harassed because they look like somebody else, and getting like their life messed with. It took years and years. This has been going on for easily a decade. So this thing called cancel culture, that's not half of it. There's like this whole weird form of mobbery, thuggery, goonery, and bullying that has gotten really popular with fundamentally middle-class, college-educated liberal whites. And it seems to be like kind of the only way that they really know how to do that. They don't, there is no, sir, you have insulted my honor. That's just not their way in any way, shape, or form. Like, to the point that it started becoming right-wingers that would get into like some back and forth with one of these people on Twitter, and the person was obviously trying to call up the mob. They were starting to use the @ symbol, and then would put all these other people into the conversation, trying to get them to come in and mob. And so finally, a lot of people here and there on the right just started walking up to these people in the street and being like, why don't we just debate this? Like, you think I'm this terrible person. I think you can't defend your views. I think you're, an irrational, empty shirt. And that's the big one with liberals who are journalists and activists. They're absolutely abysmally terrible at rationally defending almost anything that the Democrats, the liberals, the progressives stand for. They're terrible at it. They're the people who, I mean, it really is a very unfortunate thing. If viewed from the outside, when you're looking at people who are, they are pretty clever, who are liberals. When you're looking at the high-octane smarts of the right, you're looking at like military-grade vehicles. But there's just not as many of them. A lot of people are just normal. And everybody everywhere is pretty much normal, And so the very few people get like older. I've noticed it's like 50. Once you start getting about 50, they were involved in other things. They just looked up others. They're just not interested in all this shit. But they really don't get like, no. There's really a problem that the Democrats have developed, that they don't know that their journalists and activists got up to this kind of behavior and have totally just made it. That's why the trust network fell apart. There we go. The social network of trust, generally a high trust society, it fell apart because almost anyone who is a Democrat would write things that were fundamentally untrue or try to skew the information for the party. So what ends up coming of this is that eventually it becomes, no, that's inherent to them. They're always going to do this. We should just abandon the cities now that they're starting to riot all the time. We should just get away from them. This really coincides also with something. I remember years and years and years ago, Stefan Molyneux brought this up, where he was like, yeah, because you're going to just have to give up on a lot of them. You're not Noah. You're going to have to let a lot of these people drown. And said, you don't like that idea because, he said, in one way, there is the part of it that you're trying to do the right thing and, and warn people of something that you think is bad that's coming in. He goes, but the other part is you just want to be right and you want them to concede. And you want them to agree with you that the ship is going down. No, you're not Noah. Let them drown. And I was like, ooh, that's, wow. It was like, that's a good point, because he was right. A lot of it was, if they agree with me and get into the, and then we'll save the world or something. And it's like, no. There seems to be certain cycles to the way that society behaves. This is, again, another one of those books that it took forever for people to find out about. The Fourth Turning, which that starts on the left, ends up attracting the interest of libertarians because of the reference to the idea of there being currency cycles, and then of course business cycles, and that these guys might have been tracing something that are either kind of tied with business and currency cycles, or they're seeing something social that they were like, okay, is there something actually uniquely social that maybe is dictating business and currency cycles? So that was the four turnings. But now, if people didn't know about this, if this wasn't something that was being taught in a like 48 Laws of Power in a college setting over the last decade, well, this means that people aren't reading what is current in current thinking. Like in the world of thinking, they actually aren't current and up to date, and don't know what's really dictating how people are seeing the future and the past that is different than some of the great works that we have on this, the perennial, I can't believe I'm forgetting his, you guys are going to put it in the comments too, not the perennial right, I can't believe I'm forgetting it, but there's a number of these kind of futurist books that it's like, it turns out were, a big deal to, spooks and glowies that were like, oh yeah, this is how the world's going to end up, and it seems like we're all being put through the paces of it. I can't believe the perennial, it's right on the edge of my, they said those, I can even picture the writer. He's one of those characters who is, you always have a handsome picture of him, British guy with his glasses on. And anyway, so the uncancelability of people by them just saying like, no, I have the numbers on this. You're starting to see this with MMA. Sean Strickland is becoming one of these people who it's like, and that he's like, well, you can't cancel me because I could beat every one of you up. And it's now becoming this standard, like with, what's it called? Fucking Tate, with, Andrew Tate. You can't cancel me because, one, I'm smart and I figured out how to make passive income constantly. But two, I most likely can beat you up. And then now the thing that's starting to become really a trouble. If I were an intelligence person, which I mean, like, when I think about the things I'm seeing as far as propaganda about men on the internet, the lonely men on the internet, that one of the things that I'm foreseeing is that they are looking at people like Andrew Tate and all these guys, and they're seeing these MMA bros, and they're seeing men who it's like, it doesn't matter how long you keep trying to crush these guys. At some point, you're going to have to physically do something about... right on, man. Thank you. And some way you're going to have to physically kind of do something about these, the legions of lonely men. And there's too many who are too dangerous. And they know each other because of their online associations. And that's like a big part of making sure that the social networks can get monitored by people. Dude, see? We could solve the maniac problem. The maniac problem could be dealt with. I just always love like doing that to my coworker, being like, "Oh, got menaced by a maniac? We're all waiting. All you ladies just have to vote right this time." and then it's done. Then it's done. It all starts to turn back to good again. and you don't get menaced by, and and so what you're hearing in the background there, that's definitely a group of minors being menaced by one of the local maniacs. Now, we can't stomp the shit out of people like this because that would be wrong. That would be very wrong. See, children must be menaced. That's how it works here. Just so you can totally get it straight. And so, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is. That's the whole video right there. It's the summation. You can't see, because now nobody trusts the journalists, because the journalists are going to say stuff like that never happens. Or where are these kids going to find the police officer who should be in kind of the center of town, milling about, sorting that maniac out, like kind of just, shuffling them off and stuff, but that's not going to happen. They're on their own. They're going to, like big city, like the glorious lives of us big city kids. They'll learn. They'll learn how to survive. I swear, why is it that like we're bequeathing children like the Nightmare 70s metal song, of the future? But yeah, so because of this, you just won't have people who are going to give a shit about being canceled in any way. And it's because of just that this is just this it's like this girl weapon used by typists to menace random people on Twitter. And now all these people are losing their jobs now that Twitter doesn't really kind of react well to that anymore. They can't get bots to help them and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a little bit of the history there. A little touch of that. All right, later.